In our today's class, we shall discuss about the electrostatic properties of a conductor. We know what is meant by a conductor. A conductor is a substance which allows the charges to flow through it, whereas an insulator is a substance which does not allow the charges to flow through it. Now, suppose if I consider a conductor which is in the form of a sphere, why only conductor conducts? Why not insulator? In case of conductor, I have taken the conductor in the form of metal sphere. These are the positive charges. Surrounding the positive charges, there will be electrons, okay, like this. In case of conductor, plenty of free electrons are available. That means electron of one atom can move freely to another atom, whereas electron of this atom can move freely to the region of its neighboring atom. Similarly, the electron of this atom can move freely to its neighboring atom like this. That is why we call these electrons as free electrons. These are available in plenty and they participate in electric conduction. That is why conductor allows the charges to flow through it, or conductor allows the electric current to flow through it. Whereas in case of insulator, suppose if I consider a wooden piece, okay. Now, these are the atoms, positive charges. Then surrounding these electrons will be there, and these electrons are bound to the nucleus strongly. They are unable to move from one atom to another atom. That means the electron of this atom cannot move easily to its neighboring atom. Similarly, electron of this atom cannot move freely to its adjacent atom. So, since these electrons cannot move freely, that means valence electrons are not available easily in case of insulators. That is why insulator do not conduct electricity. Only conductors will conduct electricity. Now, if we place such conductor in an electric field, what happens? Let us see these things in the form of properties. Suppose if I consider once again the conductor, we know that these electrons move throughout the volume of the conductor, but they do not come out of the metal. Simply they keep moving inside the conductor itself. To such a conductor, or if that conductor is placed in an electric field, so I apply one uniform electric field to this conductor. What happens? As soon as I apply the electric field, the free electrons experience the force. That means this electric field will exert the force on these free electrons. Okay? On these electrons, it exerts the force. As a result of this, these electrons now tend to move opposite to the electric field like this. They move opposite to the electric field and align towards one side of the conductor. At the same time, the positive charge also tends to move because of electric field. Even this positive charge experiences force and they tend to move in the direction of electric field. Now, these positive charges also align towards the other side of the sphere. But still, positive charges and negative charges are left here. Okay? So, after some time, what happens means these electrons will also move towards left side and positive charges will move towards right side. Because of the electric field, force acts on these charge carriers and they begin to accelerate. Negative charge accelerates towards left side, positive charge accelerates towards right side. So it is according to the property. So positive charge tends to move in the direction of electric field, negative charge tends to move opposite to the electric field. Finally now what happens means, we notice all negative charges moving towards one side of the conductor and positive charges towards the other side of the conductor like this. Now these charge carriers inside the conductor will set up their own electric field. Let us consider that electric field as E naught. What's the electric field applied? The applied electric field is E. So this is the applied electric field. Okay. Now the applied electric field which is towards right side and the electric field that is produced inside the conductor because of the arrangement of these charges is opposite to this. Because we know that the direction of electric field is always from positive charge to negative charge. But since these two fields now are opposite, not only that, they are equal to one another. So magnitude wise they are equal, direction wise they are opposite. Therefore, what is the net field inside the conductor? Net field inside the conductor E net is equal to E minus E naught. You know that if you apply an electric field of let us say 5 volt per meter, inside the conductor this electric field will be also 5 volt per meter. Now finally 5 minus 5 means net electric field inside the conductor becomes equal to 0 because it gets cancelled. So when you keep an uncharged conductor in an electric field, then also the total electric field inside the conductor is found to be equal to 0. Suppose if no field is applied, what is the electric field? Is there any electric field contribution due to the movement of these free electrons? No. Net electric field in the absence of electric field, net electric field inside the conductor is 0. Even in the presence of electric field, once again it is found that net field inside the conductor is equal to 0. So this is one of the property of the conductor, electrostatic property. Let us write that. First one, net electric field inside a conductor when kept in an uniform electric field is 0. This is one of the property. Next, let us consider the second property. What is that second property means? Electric field is normal at any point on the surface of the conductor. Okay. Suppose if you consider a conductor, say for example, I am going to consider once again a metallic sphere. We can consider the conductor of any shape. Even you can consider a conductor which is of rectangular shape. So this is nothing but metallic plate. Let us assume like this, and this as metallic sphere. Because remember, we are discussing the electrostatic properties of conductor, not insulator. This is also conductor in the previous case. Electric field at any point on the surface is always perpendicular. Say for example, at this point, it is perpendicular directed outwards. Look here, angle is 90 degree. At this point, once again perpendicular directed outwards, once again 90 degree. Again, at this point also electric field is directed outwards because it makes an angle of 90 degree with the surface. So this is nothing but the surface of the metallic sphere. Okay, this is what the property says. Suppose if I assume myself that this electric field is not normal, if it is somewhat in a different direction, say for example like this, if I assume at this point the electric field to be like this. So this angle now it is not equal to 90 degree. In such a case, what happens? This electric field now will have two components. One component look here tangential to the surface like this. Another component like this perpendicular. Okay. So if the electric field is inclined like this, then this electric field can be resolved into two rectangular components according to the vector concepts. So this is one rectangular component, this is another rectangular component, but these two components are mutually perpendicular to each other. If that's the case, then what happens to the charges of the conductor, charges contained in the conductor like this, positive charges and negative charges? These charges now tend to move along this direction, tangential direction. So this is nothing but the tangential direction of electric field. So if these charges, because of this component of electric field, experiences force, then they should tend to move like this. That's going to result on the surface of the conductor a current known as surface current. But in static condition, surface current do not exist, which is not possible. That is why the electric field must be always normal to the surface of the conductor like this. It cannot be inclined to the surface of the conductor other than angle of 90 degree. It must be always perpendicular like this only, here perpendicular, here perpendicular. If the electric field do not remain perpendicular to the surface of the conductor, it is going to result in the surface current, which is not possible. Now let us take up the third property. Excess charge given to a conductor do not remain inside the conductor. It always remains on the outer surface of the conductor. That means charge always, can write like this, excess charge given to the conductor lies on the surface, on the outer surface, but not inside the conductor. Understand? Let us explain what does it mean. Suppose if I consider once again a metal sphere like this. If I charge this either positively or negatively, I assume like this, let it be charged positively. How do you charge a conductor positively? Remove electrons from it. If you remove electrons from it, then the conductor gets charged positively. If you add electrons, it becomes negatively charged. You know, according to Gauss theorem, the total electric flux phi is equal to 1 over epsilon naught times the total charge. That means Q divided by epsilon naught. If you want to make use of this theorem in order to explain this property, certainly there must be a Gaussian surface. Now what I do means, I consider the Gaussian surface inside the conductor like this. So the dotted line represents the Gaussian surface. Okay. What about this one? This is nothing but the conductor or sphere. Now, just now we studied that what's the electric field inside the conductor? It is equal to 0. No field inside the conductor, and there cannot be an electric field inclined to the surface of the conductor at an angle other than 90 degree. That means there is no tangential component like this. Tangential component of electric field does not exist. Field always exists at right angles to the surface of the conductor. These two properties are already known to us. When E equal to 0, what about the electric flux coming out of this Gaussian surface? This is the Gaussian surface. What the flux coming out? Either in this direction or in this direction or in this direction. It is 0. Because no field means no flux. What does it indicate? No field means no charge. Because Gauss theorem states that the total flux coming out of a Gaussian surface equal to 1 over epsilon times the total charge. When there is no charge at all, no electric field. When there is no electric field, no electric flux. So I can write like this, but phi equal to 0. Why? Since Q equal to 0 and E equal to 0 inside the conductor. So if that's the case, what happens to this equation now? This equation becomes now 0 equal to Q divided by epsilon naught. Okay, then cross multiply this. What do we get now? Q equal to 0. Okay, Q equal to 0 means net charge inside the conductor is equal to 0. So whatever charge we give to the conductor, that should remain on the outer surface of the conductor. No charge goes into the conductor, which is not possible. So this is how we can explain this property. What about the net charge inside the conductor when it is not charged? Conductor is not charged. What is the net charge? Then also it is equal to 0. Because number of positive charges will be equal to number of negative charges. Say for example, if there are 100 positive charges, then there will be 100 negative charges. Remember, inside the conductor, if 100 positive charge exists, 100 negative charge exists. So that the net charge becomes equal to, Q net becomes equal to plus 100 minus 100 means 0. Net charge is equal to 0 when it is not charged. Even when it is charged, then also the excess charge that's given to the conductor do not reside inside, but it reside outside. Coming to the next property, fourth one, electric potential at any point inside the conductor and on the surface of the conductor is constant. Okay, what does it mean? Now I consider once again a conductor, spherical conductor. Remember, any shaped conductor we can consider. Suppose if I choose 2 points inside the conductor, one is point A, another one is point B. Let VA be the potential of this conductor at the point, what is this conductor? At the point A, VA is the potential. At point B, VB is the potential. Then what's the potential difference between these 2 points? Between these 2 points, the potential difference can be taken as VA minus VB. So I write like this: potential difference between A and B can be taken as or written as dV equal to VA minus VB. We know one relation. What is that relation? Electric field at a point is equal to minus delta V by delta L. This equation we derived in our previous lecturing by considering two equipotential surfaces. This can also be written as minus dV by dx. Once again here, what's the electric field inside the conductor? We know that electric field is equal to 0. Q is equal to 0. Therefore, E is also equal to 0. If that's the case, what happens to this equation? 0 becomes equal to dV by dx. So, omitting negative sign or neglecting negative sign, I consider only this ratio. So, dV by dx. What is dx now? If I apply this to this, dx can be taken as the distance between the 2 points A and B. Whereas dV can be taken as the potential difference between the 2 points A and B. If you cross multiply this, what do you get? If you cross multiply this, then we get this as equal to dV equal to 0 into dx means 0. What is dV? dV is given by VA minus VB equal to 0. What does it mean? VA equal to VB. Once again, what's the meaning of this finally? It means that potential at the point A and at the point B are equal. That means if the point A is at the potential, if the point A possesses a potential of 5 volt, point B also possesses a potential of 5 volt. Likewise, if you choose any point, this one, here or somewhere here, at any point inside the conductor, the potential is found to be same. That's the property. Potential at this point 5 volt, potential at this point 5 volt, potential at this point 5 volt. Not only that, even on the surface at any point, the potential remains to be same, which is equal to 5 volt. Look here, at this point it will be 5 volt, at this point it will be 5 volt, at this point it will be 5 volt. So that's the meaning of this. But if you consider the points outside this conductor, that means this is the conductor. Now, at all points on the surface, the potential remains to be same, 5 volt, 5 volt, 5 volt, like this. Suppose if you choose a point here, if you choose one more point here, if you choose a point here, the potential at all these points, say for example at the point 1, point 2, point 3. So with respect to this conductor, the potential at all these points are different. Why it is different? These points from the center of the conductor are not at the same distance. Look here, this is at a certain distance, this is at a certain distance, say for example x1, this is at a distance x2. Similarly, if you choose this, this is at a distance x3. Outside the conductor at different points, the potentials are different, whereas inside the conductor at any point like this, the potential remains same. Even on the surface of the conductor at any point, the potential remains to be same. Now we shall consider one more property of the conductor. So what is that property means? We derived certain equations by making use of the Gauss law and also by making use of Gaussian surface. Okay. Suppose, fifth property, if I consider a conductor of any shape like this, either of regular shape or of irregular shape like this. Okay. Now, let us charge this conductor either positively or negatively. Now, close to the surface of the conductor, say for example at this point, what's the electric field? In order to find the electric field at this point, I am going to choose one Gaussian surface. Let that Gaussian surface be of cylindrical in shape such that one end of the cylindrical surface must be outside the conductor and the other end should be inside the conductor. Look here. So the other end is taken inside the conductor. Okay. Now, at this point, what's the electric field? It is given by sigma divided by epsilon naught into n cap. So what is this? This is conductor of irregular shape. And what about this? This is Gaussian surface. So field at this point close to the surface of the conductor, either here, or here, or here, or here, or here. At all these points, the field is found to be equal to this. What is this sigma? Surface charge density. Okay. So surface charge density. And what about epsilon naught? Absolute permittivity of free space. What about n cap? Unit vector. What is the direction of unit vector? The direction of unit vector is all along the direction of electric field. So unit vector gives the direction of electric field which is away from the surface of the conductor. To the surface of the conductor, the electric field is perpendicular, which is indicated by unit vector. So these are the properties of the conductor. Now we shall derive an expression for the potential energy of an electric dipole kept in an uniform electric field. Before deriving this equation, let us know few equations in which we already derived. What are those equations? Suppose if I keep a charge Q here at the point O, then at the point P, what's the electric potential means? V equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q divided by R, where R is the distance between the charge and the point P. Okay, so this is the potential. Suppose if I consider two charges Q1 and Q2 kept separated by distance R12, by bringing these two charges from where? From the point of infinity where electric field equal to 0. Initially both these charges Q1 and Q2 are placed at the point of infinity. So right from this point I bring the charge Q1 to the point A and next I bring the charge Q2 to the point B separated by distance R12. In this case, what's the work done in bringing these two charges to the respective position A and B to form a system of 2 point charges? That work is nothing but potential energy which is stored in the system of charges, and that potential energy is given by the equation U equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by R12. Work done in bringing two charges from infinity to the position A and B will be stored in the two charges in the form of potential energy given by this equation. Similarly, this is in the absence of electric field. Without applying any electric field, this should be the amount of work done to set up the system of two charges. Suppose initially if I apply an electric field, then work done to bring the same two charges to the same 2 points against this electric field, that total work done is once again stored in the system of two charges as potential energy, and that potential energy is given by the equation U equal to V1 Q1 plus V2 Q2 plus 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by R12. So remember the difference between this equation and this equation. This is in the absence of external field. External field. So this is in the presence of external field. Okay, presence of external field. So these are all the equations in which we come across. Now we shall derive the expression for the potential energy of the dipole kept in an uniform electric field. E is the uniform electric field. How do you say uniform? Because electric lines of force are parallel to each other, in which an electric dipole is kept. An electric dipole is nothing but two equal and opposite charges separated by a small distance. What should be the distance of separation between minus q and plus q? It should be 2a. Here I do not use that distance, which is not required for us. So 2a should be the distance between plus q and minus q. Theta is the angle made between the direction of dipole moment, which is from negative charge to positive charge always. Between the dipole moment direction and the electric field direction, theta is the angle. So dipole is kept oriented with respect to electric field by an angle theta. Then what will be the torque acting? We know that some torque acts on this electric dipole. This torque is given by tau equal to P into E into sin theta. We already derived this equation in the first chapter. That means in electric concept of electric charges and electric field chapter, we have come across this derivation. I use this same. How can you say that torque is acting on this? Look here. On this charge, due to this electric field, force acts in this direction. On this negative charge, due to the same electric field, force acts in the opposite direction. We know very well that positive charge always tends to move in the direction of electric field. Negative charge tends to move opposite to the electric field. Now suppose if this is the electric dipole, then the force, this force acts like this, whereas this force acts here like this. So if I imagine this as plus q and this as minus q, on plus q force is like this, on minus q force is like this. As a result of this, what happens? The dipole rotates like this. That means the torque tau is acting in clockwise direction on this dipole, and that torque is given by this equation. Suppose if I want to rotate the dipole through an angle d theta against to this direction of torque, we know that torque is acting like this. Okay, let us assume that the dipole is like this. Dipole is kept like this. I want to rotate the dipole like this, opposite to torque. That means in anti-clockwise direction, because initially torque is said to be in clockwise. Now I am rotating the dipole against to it through a small angle d theta. What should be the work done? So we shall write the work done minus q plus q f. This is f, this is d theta, this is electric field. So small work done to rotate the dipole through an angle d theta against to the torque, against to the torque is given by dw equal to tau into d theta. So whatever work you do in rotating the dipole opposite to the torque direction, that work will be stored in the dipole as electric potential energy. Then what's that energy? What the magnitude of that energy? For that we are deriving the equation. So in rotating the dipole, amount of work done will be stored in the dipole as potential energy. So here this equation represents the small work. How can I use this equation? We know one concept. Suppose if there is a body on which some force is acting, this force will make the body to move from one point to another point, say for example from point A to point B. So let the displacement of the body from A to B be equal to x. Then what's the work done here? It is given by force into displacement, F into x. because this is nothing but linear motion. So therefore linear displacement and work done is given by F into x. But here the dipole is rotating. Rotation is not a linear motion. So therefore, since it is rotating, I am going to consider the angular displacement. What is the angular displacement? Right from this position to this position, angular displacement is d theta. So in place of linear displacement x, I have written angular displacement. In place of force, I have written torque. Because what is torque? It is nothing but the rotating effect produced because of the action of two equal and opposite forces. So that is why torque can be considered as equivalent to force. Then this angular displacement can be considered as equivalent to linear displacement. Using the basic equation, I have written this. Substitute for torque. What is this torque? P into E into sin theta into d theta. So this is the small work that should be done while moving the dipole through a small angle d theta against the torque. Suppose if I want to rotate the dipole, say for example from some initial position, let us consider this as initial position, minus q, okay, this is plus q. This is nothing but the direction of electric field. So right from this initial position, let us consider this angle as theta 1. I rotate this against to the torque once again through some other position. That means this is the final position. Okay. So in the same electric field, I have written two figures. F, this is minus q, this is plus q. So from here to here, I have rotated this through an angle theta 2. That means initially the dipole was at this position, making an angle theta 1 with the direction of electric field. Now I rotate the dipole to some other position which is represented in this figure. From this position, I rotated this through some other position, so that totally it makes an angle of theta 2 with the direction of electric field. Remember, the angle should be written with respect to the direction of electric field and with respect to the dipole moment. Don't forget this. Now, what is the total work done while moving from one of the initial position to some final position? So this is initial position, whereas this one is final position. So total work done, the total work done is given by W equal to integral of dW from theta 1 to theta 2. So why I have written dW? dW is the small work done to rotate this through small angle d theta. Say for example, if I assume d theta is equal to 10 degree, then here total work done in rotating from theta 1 to theta 2, if the angle theta 2 minus theta 1 is about 30 degree as an example, from this to this angle minus of this, totally 30 degree, then what should be the work done, total work done? It is given by W. It is just like this, 0 degree, 10 degree, work W1, another 10 degree, work W2, another 10 degree, W3. That means for 10 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree, it becomes equal to W equal to integral of theta 1, theta 2. So we know that dW is given by tau into P into E into sin theta into d theta. So which was here initially, in which I erased that, removed that. So what is the value of this dW, which is given by P into E into sin theta into d theta. So that is what I have substituted to this. So I have rewritten the equation here. Simplify this by removing the constant terms outside the integral sign. What are the constant? Dipole moment is constant. It do not change. Electric field is uniform. That never changes unless we change it. So P E integral of theta 1 theta 2 sin theta into d theta. Okay. Now what is the integral? Basic formula of integration. Integral of sin theta, there is one formula in integration. Integral of sin theta is nothing but minus cos theta. So this is the formula used in integration, and this formula is without limits, upper limit and as well as lower limit. Okay, without limits I apply this formula. If that's the case, then it becomes open square bracket because limits are there. Till you remove, better write the terms inside the square bracket until you apply the limits. Sin theta is given by minus cos theta. Now don't forget to write the limits at the closing bracket. Now according to the integration rule, what I have to do means I have to apply the limit, upper limit once and lower limit. Once I apply lower limit, then again I apply the upper limit. So what do we get if we apply this? We get finally this equation. Look here. So W is equal to, I remove minus sign outside, P into E. For theta I substitute theta 2, cos theta 2 minus, why minus? According to the integration rule. Once you apply the upper limit, then before applying the lower limit, you have to put the subtraction sign. Minus cos, lower limit is theta 1. Okay. Suppose if I assume this theta 1 as equal to initial position angle theta 1 is equal to 90 degree, because it's 90. And if I assume this final angle theta 2 is equal to theta, then what do I get here? I get W as equal to minus P into E into cos theta minus cos 90. So if that's the case, then what will be the equation of the total work done? It becomes equal to now minus P into E into cos theta minus 0, because cos 90 is 0. So finally this is P into E into cos theta, but this work is stored in the dipole as electric potential energy. So I replace this W by the electric potential energy term U, which is equal to minus P into E into cos theta. So what I have done? I have replaced the term W by the term U. Okay. So this is the final expression for the potential energy of the electric dipole. That means if you want to rotate the dipole against to the torque or opposite to the torque, because torque is in clockwise, if you want to rotate the dipole opposite to the torque, then what's the total amount of work done? That amount of work done always gets stored in the dipole as potential energy, which is given by this equation. We consider here three different cases. What are those? So special cases. Before going to special case, I can express this in vector form. U equal to minus P dot E, dot product of two vectors, because cos term is there associated with the two vector quantities. So two vector quantities multiplied by cos term always gives the dot product of two vectors, P dot E. Now, what are the special cases? So the special cases I consider are like this. First one, theta is equal to 0 degree. What does it mean? Suppose if E is the electric field, this is minus Q and plus Q of the dipole. Direction of the dipole movement is always from negative charge to positive charge. So here the direction of dipole movement and the electric field both are in the same direction. When both are in the same direction, then angle between P and E is equal to 0. If that is the case, what happens to this equation now? U equal to minus P into E into cos 0. That is U equal to minus P into E. So this is the expression for the potential energy of an electric dipole when the dipole is aligning all along the direction of electric field. So when the dipole moment is in the direction of electric field, this is the energy, and we consider this position of the dipole as the stable position or stable condition. We say that the dipole is said to be in stable condition. Second case I consider is, if I consider theta as equal to now 90 degree. Okay. So case 2, if theta is equal to 90 degree, what does it mean? Electric field is like this, dipole minus q plus q. So this is force F and this is the force acting on the charge plus q. What is this angle now? 90 degree. That means if the dipole moment is perpendicular to electric field, then theta becomes equal to 90 degree. Then what happens to this equation? It becomes u equal to minus p into e into cos 90, means u equal to minus p into e into 0. That means potential energy u is equal to 0. That means when the dipole is at right angle to the electric field, it possesses 0 potential energy according to this equation. And one more case, last case, theta is equal to, third case, theta is equal to 180 degree. What does it mean? It means that, look here, so this is the direction of electric field. Now this is negative charge, this is positive charge. This is nothing but the dipole moment. That means the dipole moment and the electric field are opposite to each other. What is the angle between them? 180 degree. If that's the situation, E and P, if they are opposite, then what happens to this equation? U equal to minus P into E into cos 180. We know that cos 180 is given by minus 1. Okay. When cos 180 equal to minus 1, then it becomes U equal to minus into minus plus PE. So now we say that the dipole is said to be in unstable condition or unstable equilibrium also we can say. So stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium. So these are the three different cases of the potential energy of an electric dipole when kept in an uniform electric field at three different angles. Thank you.